It's you again. Guys, you're not going to want to miss this episode. We talk to another expert who gets into the nitty-gritty on why he's not banging you or she's not wanting to desire discrepancy and the cure for it. It was always there right in front of you. It was just to open up and communicate. Guys, your sex life starts now. Follow this episode. You will not want to miss this. See you there. Welcome to the Life in Red podcast. This is a way of life that emphasizes positive sexuality, self-love, and confidence. On this journey, red is now your new color. Be courageous. Be passionate. Be sexy. And never stop living your best red life. So now I have one question for you. Are you ready to live your life in red? To join us on this journey, like and subscribe below.
You know, intercourse is not, for both of us maybe. Or maybe we learn about, intercourse is like your favorite thing, but it's like my 10th favorite thing. Oh, that's interesting.
But how would that couple, because I've been in this situation, and I guess I'm an odd female. I'm more like statistically, I relate to the men more in this. Mm-hmm. Like, my thing is, and I'm just being real, if I'm getting to know you and you tell me, intercourse is in my top 3 and it's in your top 10 in regards to sexual compatibility, forgive me. Like in the process of qualifying, or making a decision, do I want to be with this person? For me, it's important to know it's at least closer than 10 notches away, because it's hard to... Is it even fair to me to deny myself where I could have probably chosen a partner where it's a little bit closer and I don't make them feel pressured? I don't know. It's just, I just wonder about that.
Yeah. And I think that's an important thing that couples do not really talk about before they're sexually intimate. Aww. And these are some of the things that I think would be really important, but also provides them a bit of a structure through the pizza metaphor to talk about these things.
Yeah.
What is it? And what is it that you're really getting out of intercourse? Is it because of the orgasm? Is it just the feeling? Or is there this sense of connection or a deeper kind of intimacy through intercourse? And that's where you start to play with that material together and talk about it in as neutral or positive a way as we can, in a non-judgmental way.
Right.
Because we want to know that, what is actually on the menu for pizzas, right? What toppings can we actually choose from? And so we're definitely going to have differences.
Some allergies.
There might be some allergies, yeah. And that can be tough to work around, right? But that's why if you have these kind of conversations in a neutral way, there's no judgment on you want intercourse more than I do, what's wrong or something like that. These are all just preferences. And they're also fluid because they can change from one day to the next. I might not want intercourse today, but maybe tomorrow I'll feel like it. So we want to know that there's a sexual menu where we can have whatever the needs that we've determined are to be fulfilled in the relationship. So it is an important question around, how do you get your sexual needs fulfilled? Do you know what you do need out of that to be satisfied and happy? And if you know that you're someone that needs intercourse, let's say, then it's going to be challenging to be with someone who maybe that's their least preferred activity.
Yeah.
But when we have all of the other toppings out there as part of the menu, well, let's see what else we can do that we might find mutually pleasurable and satisfying, and see maybe about the intercourse happening at a frequency that's maybe kind of somewhere in the middle, as long as everybody's feeling, okay and authentic about that as their experience. But that's the other critical part, is that being able to say no, and authentically and assertively say, no, if you're only interested in intercourse, I don't want that, right? And being brave enough to kind of go to these spaces and be honest with ourselves and each other about it, that's the only way that we're going to be able to see if there's some kind of compatibility there. Because as long as there's some overlap on the sexual menu, theoretically things can be satisfying through that. But yeah, you're right. Sometimes I might be more of a meats pizza person, and I might end up dating someone who's a vegetarian.
Yeah.
And well, we might not be sharing pizza a lot. And is that going to be okay for us? Or what's the nature of us sharing pizza? Some couples, when they're in their accelerated years, intercourse is off the table. And if you're dealing with any medical issues too, there can be, reasons for intercourse to be off the table. We need to build a repertoire of, if that doesn't happen, how else can we still feel connected and intimate?
Right. Oh, man. I mean, I think we're all allowed, and I think that's what's beautiful, is each individual can have what they want. And it's I think if we just got good and more comfortable with the vulnerability of discussing pizza prior to the commitments, then we wouldn't have all this, mold on our food, you know what I mean? It wouldn't be so hard just to have a damn meal.
Yeah, and that's why when I talk to clients about this, I encourage them to try and have a pizza conversation every day. Mm-hmm. And because you're probably going to want to connect intimately in some way every day.
Right.
But by doing it deliberately, you start to see the variety of it. Most days are going to be cuddling, kissing, maybe touching or massage or something like that. But then on other days, it's going to look a little bit differently. So that when you get that practice over time of it, you start to see that it's okay when it's different. We can tolerate it. We have a larger repertoire of pizza toppings, that it doesn't have to be just this one kind of pizza that's forced down our throat every night. And that's really important for couples.
Right. And, I think for me personally, and I get pretty vulnerable on here. For me personal, I love to give as much as I love to receive pizza. I love to have share the pizza and have my own side of the pizza. That's the kind of lover I am. And there's not one better than the other. Both need to exist for me. Mm-hmm. And not every night, but both, I love all of it. Anyway, so it's just, I don't know. Maybe it's because I hit my prime. It's 36 years old. And it's like you put someone who has been in the desert for 40 days and 40 nights and hasn't eaten or had water. That's about how it feels at this hormonal stage with pizza. I haven't had pizza in 40 days. And it's pizza. So I have that conversation in my dating life. I have the pizza conversation. What kind of pizza do you like? Mm-hmm. What do you put on your pizza? That's one of my first conversations with people who I feel there's a connection. And the feedback I'm getting through this vulnerable conversation is quite surprising. The guys are telling me wow, we appreciate you being so forward about this because it's helping us feel more comfortable. Because I think a lot of guys, at least around where I live, I don't want to generalize, feel uncomfortable because they don't want to come off like perverted or come off like that's all they want.
Men are in a bit of a challenging situation, let's say.
They are.
You're in my generation. I'm a few years older, but in my generation, so the men grew up in the 80s and 90s, right? They grew up under a very patriarchal, paternalistic organization of sexuality. So did the women, right? So some of the sexual imprinting that might happen around arousals and desires come from that time of our life when we were teenagers starting to develop what we liked sexually, but the frame in which we were doing it was under a very different societal organization than we have now. So men were typically kind of in charge of that stuff. Now they know that they need to be like a more sensitive, delicate, kind of nice person. They can't be as aggressive about their stuff anymore. But at the same time, that might be some of the elements of arousal and desire that men need to find a way to come out in a safe way, right? To kind of like manage the line between that.
Right. Don't swing the pendulum.
Right. Or being too sensitive, and then that's not as arousing anymore.
Well, because polarity. So you got, anytime, and this feels like this is what happens with society, is the pendulum swings one way or the other. It's like, if we can get here, somewhere in here, like, okay, guys, don't be a rapist. But don't be afraid to, in a polite way, address things that are healthy, that you want.
Right, and ask for what you need in assertive ways.
Yes, not aggressive.
Yeah, and I think men are very challenged by navigating that space. They're not sure how aggressive they can be.
Yeah.
And so they're not sure, but a lot of times, like, it's that confidence, it's that aggression that actually fuels a lot of the sexuality between the couple. And so that's a delicate line that men are walking a little bit of, how do I do this? Is it safe?
Is she gonna feel safe?
Women respond differently too. There are some women that are very afraid of sexuality and for very good reasons sometimes as well, right? If they lived through the 80s and 90s, what a different experience.
Well, it's almost like you should come up with a dating program. That would be so cool. You send out you're like on an online dating, go meet someone, you have like the pizza pamphlet. And you get the do you want kids? No, yes, okay, check, check, check. Cool. All right, so here's my pizza. All right, give me your pizza. And you use your metaphor. Do you like oral? Do you not like oral? How many times a week do you usually like sex? Do you like this? Do you like that? And they just fill out their little pizza and hand it back to you.
Yeah, well, essentially that's what I get couples to do when they come in and see me is, okay, I want you to go out, maybe take a look at some of the lists of yes, no, maybe, some of the different things of stuff to try. Go through all of that and check off your boxes. And then bring it to each other and just look at what's overlapping there.
Right.
And that becomes the sexual menu maybe for the day.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because we need to actually ask ourselves too, what do we need today in this moment? We might have our own defaults of our scripts that we like to go through, but this process also forces us to examine those assumptions for us. It isn't always rounding the bases that I want, right? Sometimes actually I do want something a little softer, you know. But here's my default pizza that I seem to always kind of go to. I'm a ham and pineapple person, you know, that's kind of my default. But I do like to kind of, you know, try some different things, or these are things that are on the table sometimes and not others.
Well, and that is the way to go, because a human need is apparently variety on some level.
Yeah.
And
especially for sexuality too.
Yeah, that always scared me, because I was always afraid, like, is my partner going to get bored with me, like, inevitably? And every partner I've ever had is like, you are everything, but not at the same time, always changing, always wanting something different. So, but I think we do, if we honored ourselves, I think that if we were getting true with ourselves, like with our sexuality, our pizza, we would realize that I don't want pepperoni every night. Mm-hmm. And if I did want pepperoni every night, I bet if they looked into why they were, like you were saying, wanting sex, I bet that what's behind that may be quite different than the person who wants different things on their pizza all the time. They may not want sex very much. They may have had trauma, or they may just not be as sexual, and they want more connection and intimacy in different ways. And that's why they don't care what's on the pizza, because they're not really pizza people. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, and really making sure that we ask ourselves those questions and ask our partners too, because even if we say these things one day, it could be completely different the next day. It's like with my kids, like you find that they love spaghetti and you're like, okay, I just went to Costco and bought all the spaghetti because that's going to be the thing now. And then the next day they're like, no, I don't like spaghetti anymore. And you've got a whole Costco-sized pantry full of stuff there. So yeah, that also kind of reflects, like, for a lot of people, having a script that's similar is about safety. It's about feeling like they know what they're doing, they know what to do. Going outside of that script and talking about it and exploring things that are maybe uncomfortable, yeah, there needs to be a deliberate decision to do that. You know, right. You got to choose that you want to go into that space to be able to explore these things. Otherwise, it will just be the automatic defaults that keep happening.
Well, and that's what, like, I had one guest on who was talking about this couple. She doesn't think couples necessarily get bored without a lack of intentionality. So most of the couples, this specialist was saying, that got bored were doing the same pizza every Thursday night for 12 years, you know, cheese.
Yeah. And it's nice and safe and it's familiar.
But then that's it, you know, and then, you know, you throw your identity in your children who change their mind if they like spaghetti or chili or action figures every 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. And then they move out of the house and you're left with this partner. And then what? Hey, do I really want cheese pizza anymore?
Yeah. Yeah. And really, I think that's, you know, a product of not being able to talk about it, or not having this idea that it's important to talk about it all the time. You know, you have to nurture the sexual relationship just like you need to nurture the rest of the relationship. I think a big bias that we have in society is that, like, once you get married, like, it shouldn't be an issue anymore. It's almost like you've secured your sex life forever now. So now you can just kind of coast. And that doesn't translate for
Mamma mia.
But that's also the kind of the new relationship energy that might fuel some of the lust. And that lasts for, like, maybe up to 18 months or so.
Right.
But if you're not talking about things, you're maybe not going to be able to go much further beyond that 18-month mark.
Yeah, because you have the infatuation drugs. Your brain's hijacking you. The hormones are hijacking you. And then I call it the law of familiarity kicks in. You know, really, those are all stress hormones. Like, this is new, this is new, this is new. And we've equated that to pleasure, which is actually a nervous system response that is like, but we're like, ooh, let's go towards it. Danger. But it turns us on. Sure, it's their kink. And then that wears off because the nervous system's like, okay, we got our certainty. We're stable. Here we are. We're safe. We got the certainty, sick ring. Whoop, we're married. And then it's like, I don't want to have sex anymore. I don't want to do this. And I think that scares a lot of people about marriage. It's like, it's like if we could hack that in the beginning and set our pizza standards from day one, know our bodies more, know what's going on with our hormones, we could start these conversations that you specialize in from the beginning once we choose the partnership.
Right. And I think that's also how we might choose our partnerships too, is
yes,
using these kind of dialogues to suss out, like, how can we have these dialogues together? Does it just escalate all the time and then where someone's feeling hurt? Or are we able to actually talk about this, like anything else that we might want to be doing together and negotiating that, so that it's safe. This is okay. This is actually part of it. I think that's kind of the danger that we set up with current relationships is almost like you should just be able to do it. Like without trying or without having, education or advanced kind of knowledge around it. But if people are having these kind of conversations, it's almost like, in the old days, like premarital kind of counseling stuff of like, hey, have you guys talked about this? Do you know where you guys stand on this? And it would really eliminate me doing that process for couples when they're 10 years into the relationship and saying,
which is hard at that point. I can't imagine, because I could put myself in their shoes because I've been there. And you find out that they like an ingredient you're allergic to.
Yeah.
And you've been with them for 10 years.
Yep.
I mean, yeah.
It's very difficult if we're not being open about it, but that's also, really a byproduct of society's discomfort with it. And then it kind of translates down into couples. So if really the big change would be just to normalize having these kind of conversations, that this is actually better. This is how you make relationships work. You have to work at it. You have to put in these kind of efforts to really get to know each other, which is different than our old ideas about marriage, which is like, I learn about them before, then I decide that they're my person.
And commit forever, no matter what.
It doesn't stop, right? People keep changing, within a marriage. Everything keeps
Thank God.
changing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. So I was going to say something I forgot, but it's so if someone wanted to find you, Dr. Jones, and they wanted to just get with you, get some help, do you offer virtual or is it in-house sessions? How can people find you if they want to make a pizza?
Yeah. So the website is lovingchoices.ca. And we do virtual as well as in person. So you can contact us and see, about the ability to do that. There's others that, that are kind of around as well. Sex therapy is really still in its infancy stage in terms of, professional development and stuff. So these are all new kind of things that people are looking at. Nothing pleases me more than being able to help a couple overcome some of the barriers that society has put up for them and prevented them from being able to have more healthy dialogue in a non-judgmental way, and being able to lift that, because that's really what we're all dealing with. We're all dealing with sex negative culture, an overriding kind of umbrella. And we're all a little bit nervous about that.
It's very nerve-wracking. My daughter, really quick, the other day, I was editing some of my podcasts, and she heard some of the dialogue. And I'm very open with my kids. I raised them I'm very open. And so she heard the word sex and she heard this or that. She's almost 12. I hear her say, that's what she says, jokes. Her and her friends, our iClouds are linked. I can see what her and her friends write. It's awesome, but it still freaks me out because it's my kid. But then she hears the word sex and we're talking about it in a way that's helpful. She's like, Mom, how long are you going to do this job? And I was like, how long am I going to do? Why? And she goes, well, if my friends get on the 18 and older and they see, because they do, and if they see that you talk about sex, they may not be my friends anymore. And I was like, it just like, it's getting me emotional because like what you were saying, it's like our culture has put, it's that we can make aloof jokes out of aloofness, out of fear, but to directly talk about it like we are today. And that's what this podcast is about freely talking about sex, sexuality with professionals like yourself, people hearing their stories. Eventually, we're going to have callers calling in to get help from an expert along with me. And to me, it's like, let's normalize this conversation.
Yeah, it's amazing that already at her young age, she's already heard the message that it's dangerous to talk about sex, and what will people think about that?
It's so crazy because I see her jokes are they're hilarious, but they're about sex, and she knows it. She knows it, but to speak about it in all seriousness, they call it cringe. It's cringe. And I'm just like, it made me more passionate about what we're doing here today. And I said, I had a talk with her. I took what she said seriously and we sat down and had a talk. I heard her. I validated her concerns. I can see where they're coming from. It's not necessarily my side of the road, but, there are concerns for her. But it's like, there has to be a change. We need to talk about pizza. What's on this pizza? Just like we talk about, like you said, all the other things we talk about. What do you want to eat tonight, honey? What do you want to eat? Are you taking a shower? Is that not vulnerable? You're naked.
Yeah, and if we were able to do that with young people, now I'm in Alberta, so this is very dangerous territory due to recent kind of legislation and stuff, is that they're kind of taking away our ability to talk to children about gender, sexuality, those kinds of things. And I think that, we do see that the jokes, they are a way for us to diffuse the tension that we all feel about sexuality. If we did not feel this kind of tension around it, sexual jokes would not be maybe the most predominant humor.
It wouldn't be as funny.
Well, it wouldn't be funny at all, right? The only reason it's so funny is because of our discomfort with it and our anxiety with it. So it would be better from my perspective of being able to educate kids around some of these things and normalize it for them, rather than kind of keep it out of their brains as a way to try and protect them from this information.
Well, yeah. I know we don't have much time, but that's a topic in itself. I to hear that's going on in Alberta is very interesting because, like in France, had a guest tell me that the parents walk around naked, and they don't equate nudity with pleasure like we do, or sexuality rather. Yeah. And I mean, look at that. Can people that are making our laws not see that? Don't you see this as perspective? It's societal stigmatism. It's control. It's like, we could change it.
Well, I don't think that politicians are the experts on sexual health, even though they're the ones who are making the decisions. And certainly with the Alberta perspective, there was not sufficient consultation with the experts on that. And
you should have called Dr. Jones, Alberta politicians.
Well, yeah. And so it does feel like dangerous territory, and it's actually even becoming more dangerous, in Alberta Florida already has, don't say gay bills passed, and
Florida?
Like that. Yeah. Florida's really clamped down on some of that stuff, making it harder, but also kind of promoting sexuality as a taboo, right? And by promoting sexuality as a taboo, we are sending the message to people that it is not normal to sit and have neutral conversations about it.
Well, that's what we keep getting. I think it's best to be real on here. We have had a hard time in the past. We just started over the show, and I'm the new host. We've had a hard time because even though this is sexual education, we're already targeted on social media at times.
Yeah.
Just for informing people informationally. And I like the challenge. It's like, I'm never going to give up.
I'm glad you like it.
I'm like, whatever. Well, yeah, go as long as you can until the pizza machine breaks. But
well, until the government tells us that, pizza is actually too harmful for consumption. And you can only have it under certain conditions and stuff.
I'll be ready to go at that time. Take me home.
I mean, the truth is that a lot of people are not interested in scientific sexual education. And that's a big divide. If we're not looking at sex ed through a scientific perspective and we're looking at it from other perspectives,
morals,
we're going to have very big gaps in communicating about this and a very different level of understanding.
It is. I always felt like science and personal decision, like science would always be kind of like, okay, here's the information. Now let me make an informed decision based on knowing my biology, knowing my, as an animal, knowing my behaviors as a female animal, knowing my instinctual behaviors. Because that's whole separate is identification is your biological, says. So if you don't know this stuff about yourself, how can you be in a relationship? How can you make decisions as politicians? These are things I don't understand.
Yeah, but I think that their purpose is that if people do not have access to this information or the diversity of information, then they will kind of follow in line in terms of what they feel like is societally appropriate, rather than what might be best for an individual or a couple. And yeah, so science and sexuality, is still only like, 60, 70 years old. It's still kind of an infant in this space. And so most people, I don't think, trust it.
Yeah. Well, religion told us that science was, because I come from an evangelical background, and I remember hearing growing up that science was the devil. Science is bad, okay? You don't.
Yeah, and there's certainly a bit of an anti-intellectualism, kind of force that's in society as well. So even resisting, the trust that we used to have in so-called experts and specialists, that has been eroded substantially over the last 5 to 10 years. So yeah, it's a very difficult environment for individuals to find access to scientific, holistic sex education, and then be in safe spaces where they can explore that authentically for themselves.
Yes, and I think there's a lot of, I know my company is one of them, and there are a lot of large groups out there that are working hard to have sex institutes for research and all kinds of things that we can get out there. And that's what this podcast is about, is informing and trying to not get deleted and talk about pizza instead of saying the word sex, because people can't handle it yet, but you will be able to soon. Guys, I'm going to wrap this up. Dr. Jones, thank you. This was a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you very much for having me on. It's a very engaging way to look at all of this, and trying to normalize this so that the conversations that we can have like this, are just a model for how others can talk about this safely.
It truly is. And I'm going to post all of Dr. Jones' information below so that you can get your hands on the more detailed aspects of what he teaches and what he helps you do, so that you can normalize this within your relationship. And you'll be so shocked how this will change everything for you. Or if you're single, trust me, I do it. They always call back. So thank you so much, Dr. Jones. I hope you have a great night. And thank you guys again. Keep living your life in red. Take care. Thanks for joining the Life in Red today, where we embrace passion, confidence, and positive sexuality. Keep painting your journey in bold red strokes. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us so that you never miss out on living your best red life. Ready for more? Stay passionate, stay red. See you next episode.